Chapter 21.
During the 5-hour journey up the shaft, the occupants of the mole ate and rested. Dr. Shaw and Sa talked with Gaia, and learned something of the city's history and governmental system. "What is that one?" Gaia had asked, pointing to Lori. The girl's face flushed. "A female," Dr. Shaw explained. "You have two sexes, I presume?" "Our females are restricted to another part of the city," Gaia replied. "They have their own tasks and rear the children. We see them on occasion." "I would suppose so," the doctor remarked dryly. "Don't they play any part in your governmental functions?" Lori asked. "No," said Gaia. "In Hod, our females enjoyed equal status with the male citizens," Sa remarked. "In fact, they held many of our executive positions. We males engaged in research, physical labor, and defense against the outsiders." He looked at Gaia for a reaction, but the huntsman said nothing. He seemed lost in private thought. Jordan watched the faintly glowing sides of the tunnel roll by on the viewer screen. The shaft had gradually changed its coloration from the orange-red of the underworld to lavender and then a dull ochre. At this moment the outside temperature was hovering near 1000 degrees, which meant they were nearing the city. Sa brought the mole to a stop. They were still within the semi-darkness of the tunnel shaft. But ahead lay a brighter light, and the shape of a building. "It might be wise to leave the mole at this point," Sa said. "If we drive straight into the city, we are bound to cause alarm." "Yes," Gaia agreed. "Besides, I will have to explain to the tunnel guards and prepare them for sight of these others." Stan shifted around restlessly, toying with the heat gun on his belt. "How about it, Doc? We're still safe while we stay in here. Maybe our new friend ought to go ahead and get things organized." Dr. Shaw considered the suggestion. "Cha and I will accompany Gaia into the city. The rest of you will remain in the mole until we return for you." He looked over at Kriai. "Since you prefer to regard yourself as a prisoner, you had best stay here under nominal guard for the moment. A guarantee of our safety, if you prefer." Kriai nodded. "I understand. I am a huntsman and a watcher. You have my word I will not attempt to harm these others." Sa opened the exit and the trio stepped out into the tunnel. Gary busied himself with his camera. At odd intervals throughout the recent journey, he had sought to record their activities. Now he took a quick shot of the three figures as they trudged away from the vehicle. "Boy, won't these pictures make a sensation when we get back home," he said to Lori. "You and your camera," Lori chided him. "I'll bet if you'd been outside the mole and had fallen into that hideous beast's mouth, you'd tried to take pictures on the way down." 2 hours later, Sa returned to the mole. Gaia had taken them before the Master Watcher, he explained, and they were now free to enter the city. Excited, the party climbed out of the vehicle and followed him up the tunnel. "How about the mole?" Stan asked. "Shouldn't we post a guard on it?" "No. It will not be approached. The Master Watcher has given his word and it is apparently sacred here." They were led to the gate of the city by a company of guards. 2 stone walls formed an arched gateway through the mouth of the tunnel shaft. As they entered Gun, a nearly transparent block of diamondite slid sideways to seal the gate. It quickly glowed with pale blue light and they knew the protective force shield was in operation, sealing off the city from the outside world. Jordan looked around. How different it was from Hod. On all sides there was an accumulation of rubble, fallen boulders, abandoned machines and, everywhere, a carpet of dust. The inhabitants stared sullenly at them, some half asleep, or drugged. Those who showed any curiosity crowded close for a moment to study the small-mouthed, short, smooth-skinned aliens, then shuffled off, and vanished among the gaping buildings. Jordan tripped over a form laying in the street, a Ghanaian in the tunic of a guard. He lay on his back, eyes staring blankly upward. Kriai, who had been walking alongside Jordan, uttered an angry oath and pulled the ice gun from his belt. He pressed the trigger and the inert body turned stark white, then suddenly crumbled to glittering powder. A moment later, a small pool of water marked the spot and then this too quickly vaporized in the city's heat. Jordan stared dumbly, shivered, and then moved along. The fool, Kriai mumbled to himself. Drunk on happy drugs in public. They climbed up the palace steps to an open area that, except for a few guards, was deserted. A desk stood in the center, raised off the floor on a dais. A giant figure sat behind the desk, wearing a dark red fire suit. This was the Master Watcher. "I am Ganyu," he said. His voice was flat and rasping. Jordan studied the wrinkled face. The leader was incredibly old, and only his eyes seemed alive. They blazed with an inner fire. "I have spoken with your Dr. Shaw and the one who claims to come from the city of Hod." As he spoke, Jordan saw that the doctor and Gaia were seated on a couch nearby. "You are granted certain rights while in our city," Ganyu continued. "We must, of course, evaluate your presence here, but you are free to move among us meanwhile. You will wear these badges." He pointed to a pile of circular red buttons on the desk. "Place them on your helmets. They will assure your safety when you move among our people." Lori picked up a badge. The face was about 3 inches in diameter and was made of a ruby-like substance that pulsated brightly. She pressed it against the temple of her helmet. The others did the same. The Master Watcher now motioned for the guards to withdraw, then waved the visitors to the long couch. "Only the Watchers and priests know anything of the old legends," he began. "There has never before been an alien among us." He leaned forward, eyes glowing. "The old history tapes have no record of living creatures from an outer world." His voice was edged with suspicion. "Rather than question your Dr. Shaw at length, I have asked him to submit to the knowing chair. This he has done, and I have already studied the findings." Dr. Shaw nodded. "I've been playing guinea pig again," he chuckled. "They put a couple of wires into my skull and scanned every memory cell I've got." He jerked his head toward a small chair by the desk. "All 50 years of my learning now sit in that disc on top. This gentleman now knows whatever I know: geophysics, mathematics, baseball scores, the price of pipe tobacco, and the timetable for the Penn Central Railroad." The Master Watcher broke in on the doctor impatiently. "Should any of our people question you, I wish you to simply act as if you do not hear them. Their curiosity is short, and they will soon tire of thinking." "Sounds like a delightful place," Lori said under her breath. Gary heard her and nudged her in the ribs sharply. "I will be frank with you," Ganyu continued. "My first impulse was to have you immediately destroyed. Particularly this one." He motioned towards her. "For untold kedules we have been on guard for the coming of the enemy from Hod. The Watchers are trained to await the signal that our ancient enemies are coming." He paused and rubbed his dry hands together. "But Gan has fallen upon hard times. And the knowledge of Hod could save us from gradual extinction." Sa had been listening stonily. He folded his arms, then answered the challenging words calmly. "I have not come here to be intimidated, but only in peace. I am alone. I am not interested in continuing an ancient and meaningless feud. I will help you. That is all." Ganyu frowned and gripped the edge of his desk fiercely. "I am not accustomed to this manner of speech," he hissed. "I can take your knowledge for myself whenever I choose." He glanced toward the knowing chair and his meaning was clear. But Sa refused to be cowed. The lizard man walked over and leaned arrogantly across the desk. "You have granted us asylum. As leader of your city, your word is said to be sacred. No, you will take from me only what I wish to give." Their eyes met. Ganyu finally gave a grudging smile. "I will keep my word, Hadian. But do not abuse the rights I grant you. And if you wish to become a citizen of Gan, you must meet certain conditions." "What are the conditions?" "Cooperate with me. Tell us about your vehicle, for one thing. We must learn how to repair the mole you saw out in the city." Sa let out his breath with an audible sigh. "What would you do with the vehicle, Supreme Overlord?" Ganyu's thin lips parted. "Well, we could put it back into service to carry onyx dust from below, and we could feed our machines without manual labor to fetch it." He studied Sa's reaction. Sa said nothing. "And we could again explore the surrounding areas. Ours is a poor city. It may collapse about us." Now it was Sa who spoke. It would also be possible for you to move from Garn to Hod. Not a good thing to do. The Master Watcher stared at him with mingled astonishment and cunning, as if the thought had only now just occurred to him. Why do you say that, young one? Not that an empty city is so great a prize. You yourself have said it is now but a graveyard for the memories of a forgotten yesterday. Sa regarded him coolly. I have noticed that a city can quickly deteriorate when the dwellers have little regard for intelligence. He waved a scornful hand around him. Look at Gun. The buildings crumble, the machines cease to function, the people live in ignorance and superstition. They are more like walking vegetables than rational beings. Their only joy comes in drugging themselves to near unconsciousness. Why, in a matter of years you would simply turn my city into this. Ganyu's face became a mask. He closed his eyes and appeared to have gone into a trance. Finally, he opened them, and they glowed like green coals. Our people are as they are because we live in this rock-bound prison and cannot escape. The knowledge has fled. In truth we are no more than slaves of Unu. Unu? Sa said the word softly. A supreme entity that shapes all existence? Tell me, Overlord, do you really believe this is so? Gai had been listening with mounting bewilderment and rage. Now stung by this final affront to his religion, the huntsman leapt to his feet and seized Sa by his neck. Stop! He screamed. How dare you mock our sacred mother? His hand clawed for his ice gun. I will kill you now. Sa wheeled about and tore free from the grasp of the Ghanaian. His own hand grabbed Gaia's wrist and they fought for the weapon. Cease this. The voice of the Master Watcher rang out sternly. Gaia had wrenched free of the punishing grip and held his gun poised, its ugly snout trained on Sa's middle. He hissed angrily and jammed it back in his belt. No more, Ganyu commanded. Then, anxious to overlook the unfortunate incident, the Master Watcher turned his attention back to Dr. Shaw. I have granted you the freedom of our city, but I want you to reconsider what I have asked of you. Our intentions toward the other city are not hostile. We could not move a large number of our citizens there, only a select group from among our watchers. He leaned forward, now addressing Sa. You wish to join our citizens. Why not then be among the chosen ones in Hod, your home? With your knowledge you can be a leader. Sa pondered the proposal. What the old man said was true enough. Why remain in this decaying city when Hod lay empty and inviting? Give us time to weigh the matter, he finally said. Very well. The Master Watcher nodded his head slightly. Come back to see me by the end of the next Kejl. The party of adventurers left the palace, and Gaia took them to a small building where they would stay. Like the rest of the city, the building was covered with dust and powdery grit, but some effort had been made to sweep it. I regret the incident at the palace, Gaia said to Sa. He stumbled a little over the words which did not come easily. Then he extended his hand once more and Sa unhesitatingly touched it with his own. It is forgotten, the lizard man agreed. I will not again make light of your beliefs. The others had moved away, seeking their own private rooms, and now Gaia glanced around uneasily, as if afraid of being overheard. I want to talk to you, he muttered. Yes? Sa seated himself on a couch and the huntsman sank down alongside him. Some of the things you have spoken about, they arouse curiosity in me. I have been doing some thinking. He paused uncertainly and Sa waited. Then, abruptly, Gaia began to talk. You must not think that all of us here are like that fool whom Kriya raised with his ice gun. A few of us, a few watchers, have thought other things. Sometimes, Sa, I wander through the old library and look for ancient memory disks. My friend, Lu, is another like myself. And there are others, 6 at least. He ran his fingers nervously along his thigh, then plunged on. You have spoken about an outside world, far up beyond the roof of our city. This is something I have hardly dared allow myself to think upon. We are not permitted to speak such thoughts in public. You won't learn how to repair the machines or use them if you are afraid to think, Sa replied gently, keeping any trace of scorn from his voice. All around you is the proof of what blind ritual can lead to. I am relieved to know that a few of your people are willing to seek answers. Gaia nodded, still fearful of raising his voice above a low murmur. "We are all prisoners here, doomed to spend our lives trapped in a rock prison. The hunt for onyx dust may be necessary, but it is really only a form of escape from Gun." He put a hand on Sa's arm, persuasively. "That is why your decision about the traveling machine is so important." Sa's eyes were lowered, his lids closed slightly as if to screen his thoughts. What of Gaia? He wondered. Had this newly found friend some devious motive behind his earnest words? Had he, in fact, been sent by the Master Watcher to win their confidence with this seemingly frank confession? "Ganyu has given me a cudgel to make a decision," he replied. "I would like to know something more of your people first. Can we look around the city now? You can show me about." "Of course." Gaia got up and Sa joined him. "Do you wish the others to come along?" "No," Sa replied, "I prefer to go with you alone. They will have to return to their own world soon, but what I decide affects only your people and me." "Very well, then. Come and I'll take you to meet Lu and the other 4 Watchers who form our group." They walked out of the apartment, heading for the Watchers building a short distance away. "Is Kriai one of them?" Sa asked suddenly. Gaia shook his head. "No. Kriai is set in his ways. He saved my life a short while ago, but I do not really trust him. Nor does he trust you, my friend." The word Hod stirs him to anger. He has been well indoctrinated as a Watcher. "I am sure he cannot understand why you have not been destroyed." Sa grinned crookedly. "Do you mean that you people have spent an eternity here waiting for us to seek you out and make war with you?" He shook his head in wonder. "What a waste of time. And, on our part, we were guilty of the same thing, but in a strangely different way. You see, we too watched for you to return to our city. Your history discs must have told you that." It was a question. Sa waited for the other to reply. "There are no discs to tell us that," Gaia answered. "Maybe they were a long time ago, but they must have been destroyed. Now it looks as if each city has expected only the worst of the other." Gaia shook his head sadly. "And we have meanwhile lost all knowledge of science. We have been trained to tend the machines in a ritual manner, to guard against invasion, and to hunt the hot dust. Little more." Then, Sa observed, as they climbed the steps into the Watchers building, "It appears that I have come here to free you rather than invade you." Gaia was silent. "All right," Sa said, "now introduce me to these others."